Hello, this is Mr. Chabry, and we are here with another narrated Pokemon battle. So this is another battle against Gamer MZ. And looking at my opponent's team, he's got some pretty big threats. Of course, Mega Alakazam is always a pretty big threat. It hits really hard. Also, Tapu Koko, it's fast, it hits hard as well. And Klefki, which Klefki is really cool as a support Pokemon. I'm going to lead off with my Landorus because it seems to threaten most of his team the most, as he ends up leading the Mega Alakazam. So Mega Alakazam is a huge threat, and I do really need my Landorus. So what I'm going to do right off the bat is just U-turn. Of course, this thing is faster, and it's probably best to get a slow U-turn because I don't really have anything that wants to come in, and I don't want this thing tracing any other ability. Intimidate's the only ability that doesn't really threaten my team right now. So I'm just going to U-turn out. We take the Psychic pretty well because this Lando does have really nice special defense bulk invested. So we're going to just U-turn on out and bring in the Kartana because this is a choice scarfed Kartana. It's going to outspeed this Mega Alakazam. So now Mega Alakazam does not want to stay in because it's such a big threat to my entire team. And my opponent's going to bring in the Klefki. I just go for a Smart Strike. It's a pretty neutral, middle of the ground play, and it does get some decent damage on Klefki, but Klefki does have some nice bulk usually. So now I'm going to go into my Zapdos. I know this thing cannot Thunder Wave my Zapdos, and I don't want to be Thunder Waved with my Kartana as well, as it's just going to go ahead and set up a Reflect here. So what I want to do is just go for a Heat Wave. Heat Wave will do some nice damage to this. Unfortunately, it's going to go ahead and get the Light Screen, so that's going to help out my opponent's Pokemon with survivability. Of course, this thing won't even go down to a Heat Wave from this point. And my opponent's actually going to sack off the Klefki here. It's done its job. It's got a layer of spikes, and it's got both Light Screen and Reflect. So now we take out the Klefki, but I mean, it's not that big of a problem for my opponent because it's done what he intended it to do, and now he's going to bring in the Nidoking. And this thing is a pretty big threat. It can hit anything on my team pretty hard. So I'm just going to stay in with my Zapdos and just go for a Himpower Ice, see how much it does. I know Zapdos would be able to live 1, but it's not going to do hardly anything, so this must have some decent bulk on it, this Nidoking. I'm going to switch my Zapdos out because it would be so nice to keep my Zapdos. And I'm going into Greninja because I'm thinking this thing might be Choice Scarfed because it outsped my Zapdos. So we have our Greninja in here, and this thing is not going to outspeed Greninja, especially if I go for a Water Shurikan. So, expecting my opponent to switch out, I actually just go for the Hydro Pump. We actually do miss, unfortunately. But yeah, even if I went Dark Pulse, I don't think Tangrowth would have taken that much because Tangrowth is a bulky Pokemon. I'm going to go into Ferrothorn, expecting a Sleep Powder, and that works out perfectly because this thing cannot put me to sleep. And this thing will have a hard time tackling down my Ferrothorn. And really what I want to do with my Ferrothorn here is try to stall out the Reflect and the Light Screen. So I'm just going to go ahead, set up my own spikes, and just put some pressure on my opponent now. My opponent does have spikes on my side. If I can get some more spikes on my opponent's side, it'll help me out a lot. Of course, my opponent's Reflect has just worn off, but now in will come the Mega Alakazam. And it's going to take some spike damage, not that much, and it's actually going to get the Iron Barbs here. I'm just going to get a second layer of spikes, but I don't really want to stay in, per se, because a Focus Blast would completely destroy Ferrothorn, but the Light Screen has worn off, so that's good. But I decided to protect. My thinking here is that Focus Blast often misses, so maybe if I can stall out a few Focus Blasts, it would help me out here. I actually just did that mainly to see if my opponent had Focus Blast. And now my opponent's going to switch it up, go for the Psychic, expecting me to switch out. And I'm just going to go for a Power Whip to get some sort of damage on this thing, and we will take it out. So protecting there and then staying in really worked out for us because, of course, we got to see this thing have Focus Blast. but then my opponent went for Psychic. On the off chance, I went into Lando. So now Noivern's going to come in, and this thing is very fast. Of course, it's going to Frisk, find the leftovers that my opponent already knows I have. And I'm just going to let my Ferrothorn go down. I think it's actually best this way because I can easily bring in something to revenge kill this Noivern. And I'm actually going to bring in my Mega Lopunny to do such a thing. Because Mega Lopunny, it's really fast. It's faster than Noivern. But my opponent's not going to let Noivern go down here. And my opponent will bring in the Tangrowth. This thing is a physical wall. Of course, it does have some decent special defense as well, especially the Assault Vested variety, but we know this isn't Assault Vested because it went for Sleep Powder. So now I'm going to Mega Evolve, and here I just go for Ice Punch. That does a lot to Noivern, plus it does decent amounts to the Tangrowth if it gets swapped in, and we're going to see that this thing has a weakness policy, so that's kind of scary. I'm going to actually swap out because I think Lopunny still has a lot it can do, and I'm going to go into my Kartana because I'm thinking Kartana should be able to take a lot from this, no matter what it goes for, except it actually goes for Giga Drain. It does some decent damage. I was actually expecting maybe a physical move, I don't know why, but of course it's going to go for Giga Drain, and I'm going to go for a Smart Strike to get some nice chip damage on this thing. To get it easier to take out, it's actually going to knock off and get rid of my Choice Scarf, but Kartana is still alive, and that just means Kartana is going to be able to take this thing out if my opponent decides to stay in. But Gamer MZ decides to keep the Tangrowth and bring in the Noivern. So Noivern is going to take a Smart Strike. Of course, it's not enough to take it out from here, but Noivern outspeeds us without our Scarf, so Flamethrower will finish off the Kartana. So now we're going to lose our Paper Samurai, but I'm going to go back into Lopunny. Of course, Lopunny should outspeed this. I'm pretty sure it does. And Ice Punch would be nice. I'm actually going to go for Frustration here, because if my opponent decides not to bring in Tangrowth, it would do a lot of damage to anything. But now my opponent's going to bring in that Tangrowth, and we're going to get some spike damage on it. And looking at that, I'm not so sure that Ice Punch would do the job here. So I'm actually going to go into my Zapdos, and I can easily Heat Wave this thing if I need to. I just don't want my Lopunny to go down just yet. He's actually going to Sleep Powder here. I no longer have my Grass types. Kartana is gone, Ferrothorn is gone, so I'm going to have to let something go to sleep. And I think Zapdos, in the long run, might be the best thing to let, snooze. Now, the Nidoking is going to come in, and this thing is still a threat. Like we saw before, it's got some decent special defense. It's pretty bulky, actually. So now we're just going to continue our snooze, and of course we're going to get a few leftover recovery, but I don't really want to switch out because I don't want anything to take unnecessary damage. And my opponent actually goes for the Earth Power, I guess expecting me to swap out here. There wasn't really a reason for me to swap out because I'm going to just try my hardest to let Zapdos wake up. And if it gets sacked off, I can easily come in with something and revenge kill. But now Tapu Koko is going to come in, and my opponent has to swap out because Earth Power will not touch Zapdos. I'm going to go Hidden Power because, like I said, Nidoking is stuck into Earth Power, and there's not a reason for me not to, I guess. I could have went for Heat Wave, but I just felt like Hidden Power just for safety. Now, this Tapu Koko will U-turn out, and Nidoking will come back in. And that just means I can hit this Nidoking pretty hard if I can get the right move on it. I just go for a Heat Wave here, hoping to do more damage. But it does pretty nice damage to the Nidoking. I did not want to go for an electric move because Nidoking coming in is such an easy thing. And I'm just going to let Zapdos take the Ice Beam, and Zapdos will go down. But Zapdos did put some pressure there, especially because my opponent thought I would swap out into maybe Greninja. That's probably what my opponent expected. A Greninja swap in. I'm just going to go for the Water Shuriken. We know this thing is Scarfed now. I'm pretty sure it's Scarfed. But we're just going to Water Shuriken, take it out, and we're going to get the Battle Bond boost. So now we'll watch as Greninja turns into Ash Greninja, and that just gives it some more speed, some more special attack, and it's also holding the specs, so that means it's going to be doing a lot of damage. Unfortunately, since it is specs, I'm stuck into Water Shurikan, and I'm not going to let Greninja go down just yet because it's still a really good Pokemon in this battle. I'm going to bring in my Lopunny, mainly as death fodder, because I think Greninja is going to be the one that pulls it through for us. But we actually survived the Giga Drain, especially since this thing no longer has the weakness policy boost. It really works out for us. I'm just going to go for a frustration, get as much damage as I can, and it's still not going to take it out. So we're going to lose Lopunny, but I mean, that's alright. I don't think Ice Punch would have taken it out either, and right there, frustration was just, I guess, a middle of the road move. I'm going to go into Greninja because I'm hoping from this range now, Greninja should be able to take it out with a Dark Pulse, and Tangrowth will be swapped out, and Tapu Koko will come in. Of course, we're just going to go for the Dark Pulse because that's pretty nice damage on the Tangrowth, and Tapu Koko resists Dark Pulse, but since we are in Ash Greninja form, since we have the choice specs, this Tapu Koko is not taking a Dark Pulse, and that just leaves the Tangrowth. But now I'm looking at this Tangrowth's HP, and I'm thinking, maybe I need to get some more chip damage on it before I try to take it out with a Dark Pulse, because if one Dark Pulse doesn't take it out, it's very likely that this thing could take out the rest of my team. Of course, it could even go for a Sleep Powder, put my Greninja to sleep, and then Lando is not going to take it out from that area. So now, I've got my Lando here, hoping that if it does go for Sleep Powder, Lando will be the one put to sleep. But now I'm wanting to get some nice chip damage. We're just going to go Hidden Power Ice, and it's doing a little bit. I was actually hoping it would do a little bit more, however. But now this thing has just got some more health back. But it's actually on a lower... It's lower than what it was when Greninja was first out here. So now Greninja is going to come back out, and Greninja is ready to Dark Pulse this Tangrowth. So that's what I'm going to do. We're just going to fire off a Dark Pulse, choice specs, Ash Greninja, and it will take out the Tangrowth. So that was a really good battle there, Gamer MZ. Some really, really good Pokemon on both ends. I really like this OU team I've got. It's a really, really well put together team. So if you like this, give it a thumbs up, subscribe. I will see you in the next Pokemon video.